Princely Umanmielen just threw Billy Napier in Florida straight under the bus.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi, I'm Stephen Willis, a former staff member at Ole Miss and a 10-year veteran member of the national media with Yahoo Sports. Thank you very much for joining us today. Today on the show, we talk about Princely Umanmielen throwing Billy Napier in Florida straight under the bus. And if what he's saying is true, then an All-American type year could be in the offering for this Ole Miss Rebel. Umanmielen offered some insight also into how much of this 2024 team is Jaxson Dart. And we also tell you about Malik Dia from Belmont and how he is good at basketball. This is the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We're free and available in all the podcast apps and on YouTube. Thank you very much for making Locked On Ole Miss your first listen every day, and a special hello to the everydayers who make the show what it is. Princely Umanmielen just threw Billy Napier under the bus. Well, I know we've said that 3 times, but he absolutely did. Listen to what he said.
I could work on something that from last season I could work on better is my drops and my attacking the run game a little bit. But I feel like here I'm getting coached harder for things like that. You know, I feel like at Florida, like the way I was coached, it was kind of like, it was almost as if like they was just telling me to go out there and use my talent, if that makes sense. But here, you know, Coach Lou and Coach Coach Lou and Coach Joyner, they really on me about the little things, you know, attacking the run. Coach Lou really goes through the progressions of the drops and the routes that are being run when I have to go into coverage. Like when I was at Florida, it was like they would just tell me, go drop to this area, and I would have to figure out everything else on my own. But here, you know, they go real into depth. I feel like I'm actually getting, you know, developed here.
Okay, the Lou he's talking about, Coach Lou, is Lou Spano. He's the lead analyst, a former UConn coach. He was a defensive coordinator, I think, at UCLA back in the day. He's a defensive guy that has found a nice little niche being an analyst where he just gets to coach football and not having to worry about the other stuff. The attention to detail that Ole Miss is putting into everything they're doing, and what they were saying was being done at Florida, with Princely Umanmielen talking about, hey, just use your elite athletic ability and go over there and you can figure it out type of stuff. Honestly, it shows why Florida is a perpetual 5-6 win team over the last couple of years. But Ole Miss has that Pete Golding mentality, that Alabama Nick Saban mentality, because that's what Pete Golding came from. The coaches that Ole Miss has on that side of the ball is at a minimum elite. This is one of the best coaching staffs in the entire country. So it shouldn't surprise us that he's actually coaching star players hard, because Nick Saban would tell you, and I'm sure Pete Golding would say that Nick Saban would tell you, the better your players are, the harder you need to coach them, not the other way around. So understanding that, hey, we probably need to inform Princely Umanmielen about why he's dropping back into this zone and what type of routes could be coming into this zone and what you need to be on the lookout for is a lot better than anybody can possibly believe that just go over there and figure it out would be. Florida's not been a particularly good team. He was a bright spot on their roster a year ago. He's one of the top 10 probably pass rushers in the entire country. He's one of the best athletic players on the defensive line in college football. But you can't expect even a player that good to just go somewhere and just figure it out and based off athletic ability. Now, Princely Umanmielen, over the last 3 years, would make athletic plays that everybody would be just in awe of. He would make completely great stuff, but there were parts of his game that were just not necessarily ignored, but not maximized. And therefore, he was not becoming the all-around defensive end that he needed to be. the reality of the situation is, with as good of a player as Princely Umanmielen is, he could easily be Will Anderson. That was his ceiling, a Will Anderson type player. But you had to develop him. That wasn't just going to happen. You had to develop that and make it better and bring it to the surface. That didn't exist. Now, Ole Miss is going to have one spring, one summer, and one fall season to get him as good as he could be. I think that Pete Golding and Randall Joyner and Coach Lou Spano, they're going to be in a position to absolutely maximize all of that. The goal is to get him to a first-round level on the defensive line. To do that, he probably needs to be a little bit better in the run game. He needs to be more decisive, and he needs to be playing with an intelligence back in pass coverage, because he even mentioned that pass coverage is something that they're absolutely working on. Remember, Pete Golding dropped Will Anderson into coverage. This is going to be something that is done. But if Florida's best defensive player in Princely Umanmielen is saying that they cut corners, that they did not develop him, because Princely Umanmielen did say that he feels like he's finally getting developed at Ole Miss. If Florida is cutting those corners, is there any doubt that Ole Miss football is a superior program in just about every way to the Florida Gators right now? Now, I'm not saying 2008. Urban Meyer's not walking through that door. I'm talking about Florida right now. Florida right now is not a high-level program. They are not a program that needs to be taken seriously at this moment. And that is because they are cutting corners with these star players. They get good players in. The state of Florida, you look all around me, there's prospects everywhere. You can go right up the road to the Lakeland Dreadnoughts and find 2 5-stars sitting on that field at any given moment. Talent is not ever going to be a problem for the Florida Gators. The other stuff is going to be a problem, and is a problem right now. Their collective appears to be a little bit of a mess, and it goes back to the Jaden Rashada promising him, $10 million a year or some ridiculous amount of money that Florida just backed out of, because honestly, they shouldn't have offered it to begin with. But their collective after that has been, for lack of a better word, broken. Ole Miss's collective is one of the top 5, top 10 in the country, not most wealthy, but most efficiently ran. They are experts in the transfer portal. They're led by the Portal King, and they will go out and fill in the holes in their roster now that high school recruiting doesn't matter as much. And they are going to coach those players really hard, develop them up. I don't think there's any doubt. Ole Miss is a superior program to the Florida Gators right now. And it's not particularly close because of where the Ole Miss football program has gone. And those simple facts, to where they're going to be efficient in the NIL space, they are going to utilize the transfer portal, which is the most important method of recruiting right now out there. People that are trying to really put all their eggs in high school recruiting, they're going to end up figuring out that that just doesn't matter, because now in the age of multiple transfers, that high school class, you have to keep them for 4 years. And that almost never happens right now unless you end up completely overpaying. You look at what happened with Quinshon Judkins, to where it just happened year over year over year. By the time you're a junior, you're like, okay, we need to just let him go. The juice isn't worth the squeeze anymore. And Ole Miss is adapting to this era of college football is the story. And the fact that Ole Miss has completely passed Florida. Now, Florida under Steve Spurrier and Urban Meyer, that was the class of college football at that point. I'm not saying anything about them. Congratulations. They really, really good football programs. Couldn't beat Eli Manning and David Cutcliffe, but I digress. Right now, as in post-2020 college football, Florida's not particularly close to Ole Miss. And until Florida adapts to what is going on, they're not going to be close to Ole Miss. Because Ole Miss is going to have an NIL space that is efficiently run, a transfer portal space that is the primary recruitment device, and they're going to coach those star players harder than they've ever been coached. And because of that, you're going to have a very well-coached team on Saturdays that's hard to beat. Ole Miss last year went 11-2, with their only losses being to the Georgia Bulldogs and the Alabama Crimson Tide. And it could be argued that last season was a down season. Princely Umanmielen said he feels like he's finally getting developed at Ole Miss. And that means a lot. That says a lot. And it threw Florida and Billy Napier straight under the bus. But honestly, if you're a Florida fan, probably glad he did, because it's true. And if you don't think it's true, you're going to end up in the same position over and over and over again. So we'll see how it goes. Ole Miss is playing down in the swamp in November this fall. It's going to be an increasingly interesting football game now, and I'm looking forward to it a lot. Go check out Brandon Olson on Locked On Gators to get all the information on what's going on in the Florida Gators football program. So really interesting stuff. Thanks again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen of the day. Now, we all knew that this was Jaxson Dart's team, but we might be surprised at how much this is Jaxson Dart's team. You know, Better Together is the first cooperative daily fantasy application. It offers a familiar experience for existing DFS players with a social twist. You can play with a friend/teammate. It provides a sense of camaraderie and enhances the social experience of watching sports, because everybody knows that watching sports should be a social activity. It makes you realize that DFS is fun along, but like other things, it's better when it's done together with friends. And it shows synergy from working together that gives you better chances of winning than going at it alone. The team. It creates a shared experience. Splitting a contest entry gives the feeling of being connected even when you're apart. You know, brackets already busted. Well, are you tired of the same old daily fantasy grind? Well, you make a roster, cross your fingers, and of course, hope for the best, or losing on that last leg of a pick'em entry. Introducing Better Together, the first cooperative daily fantasy platform where friends triumph talent, and you can play with your friends, not against them. Pick more or less than real-time player stats and strategize with your partner to boost your odds and climb the leaderboard together. So grab a friend and join the social DFS movement. Download Better Together now from the App Store and sign up using promo code LOCKEDON, all one word, LOCKEDON, for a chance to win your share of over $1,000 in cash prizes. Remember the code, LOCKEDON, because winning alone is fun, but it's better together. Fire TV is your destination for sports, from live games to highlights to in-depth analysis. Fire TV offers amazing viewing experiences with smart TVs, as well as the Fire TV stick that you can plug into your existing TV that provides an access to millions of movies and TV episodes, as well as free and live TV. Whether it's the opening weekend of baseball, which is coming up this weekend, or the college basketball tournament, you're going to want to have a Fire TV. Fire TV recently created the Fire TV Channels app to deliver a constant supply of the latest videos from your favorite sports brands, all for free. That list includes all of us at Locked On, as well as most big pro leagues and college conferences as well. Fire TV Channels lets you dial in on all the in-game analysis, highlights, and even more. Keep up to date on all the latest in the world of sports, whether it be March Madness, NBA, MLB, and a lot more. Not to mention all the great news, entertainment, gaming, travel, and cooking videos as well. Check out Fire TV Channels on the Fire TV and Alexa devices. If you haven't checked out Fire TV, you should. Trust me on this. You won't regret it. To learn more, visit www.amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV. Are you watching Fox News or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every single day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. All right, so we all knew that this was Jaxson Dart's team, and we all knew that he was very high up and very involved in all aspects of this team. We knew that Jaxson Dart had a magnetic personality. We knew that people were drawn to him, and he is leading this team, not necessarily with an iron fist, because I think that people want to follow him. You have a situation where Jaxson Dart is completely taking this Ole Miss football team to the next level, at a level that I don't think Ole Miss fans can relate to. We haven't seen this before. We had Matt Corral, who was a leader. We had Chad Kelly, who was the leader. We had Bo Wallace, who was the leader of the program, all the way back to like Jake Gibbs and Glenn Griffin and those guys. But I don't think any quarterback has taken the reins of this program the way that Jaxson Dart has. Take what Princely Umanmielen said about his recruitment. When asked who recruited him the most and what happened, he gave a story about what Jaxson Dart did. All right, so you see how involved Jaxson Dart was in the recruiting process, and he was like this all the time. I saw early on one of the players and one of the things that I needed to follow online was Jaxson Dart's Instagram account and seeing who he was following. And that would let you know where they're recruiting and which direction they're going. And there was probably a 70% hit rate of knowing what was going on before the news even got out there. And that let me know 3 or 4 months ago that this was kind of a special period for Jaxson Dart. Then you saw the whole Last Dance thing that's come out, and everybody's talking about, everybody was worried about Lane Kiffin or something like that. And then you realize, no, this was Jaxson Dart completely doing this, and all the players that are coming through. He set up a Last Dance type movement. And Lane Kiffin is letting it happen. And honestly, he should. Because Lane Kiffin, while he might be the face of this Ole Miss football program, he might be overshadowed for this team by Jaxson Dart. Whenever this transfer portal window opens up in about 3 weeks, I think April 15th, the transfer portal window opens up, and people say that this window could be absolutely nuts. This is my prediction of how this is going to go. I don't think that Ole Miss is going to be hit very hard at all in that transfer portal window because of Jaxson Dart. The same charisma that got these players to come to Ole Miss are going to be the same charisma that keeps them at Ole Miss. And players that originally went elsewhere might want to come back. You hear rumors of all the time of portal players that went elsewhere that are having second guesses of what's going on, that are having a different way to process everything, and they want to go to that magnetic personality. Because Princely Umanmielen talked about what a quarterback is normally like at the D1 level. They just kind of keep to themselves, or they have one or two friends. And there's a very click-based system in place. It's almost a caste system to where the quarterbacks view themselves as above the other players on the team. So they only hang out with, at most, offensive players. That's just the way it works. Anybody that's been on a team can tell you that a lot of times those cliques develop. Jaxson Dart is a unicorn in the fact that he is friends with absolutely everybody. He is the unabashed leader of this team. And if Ole Miss makes the playoff, and how far they go in the playoff will probably depend on the will of Jaxson Dart, because you have all of these talented athletes. Look at Princely Umanmielen, Walter Nolan, former transfers like J.J. Pegues, who's in his third year, by the way. That's nuts. Jared Ivey, former Peach Bowl MVP. Chris Pupal transferred in. All of these transfers came in because of the quarterback. Defensive transfers are on the field because of the quarterback, which tells you people like this guy. People want to follow this guy. His personality is unbelievably magnetic, and he oozes charisma. There is a reason that the 2024 season, there's a chance that it's the Jaxson Dart season. Now, I'm sure Shedeur Sanders is going to have a ton of commercials. But Jaxson Dart and his charisma, I think everybody needs to watch what is going to happen there. Princely Umanmielen said some incredibly interesting things yesterday. First of all, throwing the Billy Napier and Florida Gators under the bus. I get that. It might be a situation when he transferred out. I do not know what that kid went through. So I'm not going to judge any of that. But I am going to admit that he said it, because he did. He said it at a public forum that got posted online by the Ole Miss official account. So there's no problem saying that. He also said that the way Jaxson Dart recruited him, it was almost weird because of all the FaceTiming and all the work that Jaxson put into it. This was back when, everybody remember this, when everybody's like, well, is Jaxson Dart going pro? And it's like, no, he's not. He's recruiting way too hard to be not on this team. Jaxson Dart just deserved to have his moment, which he had on January 1st. I'm impressed with a lot of stuff that's going on with Jaxson Dart right now. And I'm impressed with a lot of stuff that's going on with all the players that are coming in. I'm going to be paying real close attention to what happens in the transfer portal this spring. This Ole Miss team, Lane Kiffin yesterday compared this team on the top end of its roster to early 2000s USC, to 2015 Alabama. He said that those were probably all the 85. Those teams were probably a little better, but the top end of this roster was unbelievably where it needed to be. Now, because of the transfer portal, that bottom of the roster, you're not going to see those teams anymore. They're not going to exist because those people are going to transfer away. But that's what this team is. And Jaxson Dart has become the face of this team. If the 2024 team gets a home playoff game, and I've said this, he will be the greatest of all time to play quarterback at Ole Miss. And it won't be particularly close. And honestly, I'm pretty excited about that. Still more to come on Locked On Ole Miss, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. A big-time player in the transfer portal is mulling the NBA or the portal, and Ole Miss has contacted. This week's March Madness Bracket Highlight is brought to you by our friends at Nissan. Each week, we're picking one team that stands out, a team that has pushed it further than the rest. Just like any of the all-new Nissan 2024 SUVs, these guys were able to take it to the next level. This week's team, the team that got beat down pretty good by the Ole Miss Rebels, and that is the NC State Wolfpack. They're obviously this week's Nissan Rogue. This team absolutely surprised us all with a powerful performance in their first two games of the tournament. They have wins over Texas Tech and Oakland, and they've set them up to play Marquette in the Sweet 16. They say win life, go rogue. That's exactly what the Wolfpack have done here. Take the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, or Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure. Shop NissanUSA.com. Passion, drive, and patience, what brings home the winning trophy, is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers to roof racks to exhaust kits, LED highlights, headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, kind of like the Ole Miss defensive line, eBay Motors has got you covered. And with over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay's guaranteed fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay's guaranteed fit is only available to U.S. customers. Thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen of the day, and shout out to the Everydayers. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows that cover every single league. Find Locked On Sports Today, now available for free on the free Fire TV channels app. Be part of history. So let's change subject just a little bit and start talking about the hoops transfer portal window. And Chris Beard is hard at work going on. Now, Chris Beard famously did not take an NIT invite because that he wanted a head start on the transfer portal going there. We saw the player yesterday, Michael Ajayi. We talked about him from Pepperdine possibly visiting Ole Miss. Now, Ole Miss reached out to contact another player in Malik Dia. And Belmont forward Malik Dia plans to enter the transfer portal and was also test the NBA draft waters. The 6'9" sophomore averaged 16.9 points per game and only 23 minutes per game this season. Really interesting stuff. He averaged nearly 17 points a game, about 6 rebounds a game, 1.2 assists, and shot nearly 50%. Really good basketball player for the Belmont Bruins. Now, this is what you need to know about him. If he does not go to the NBA, everybody is going to recruit this player. And Ole Miss is also recruiting another player, or has at least contacted another player that goes to Belmont as well. The one thing you need to realize about these Belmont Bruins players is they can shoot the lights out. And Malik Dia scored over 20 points against Arizona in Arizona, so he can play against high-level competition as well. He is definitely a player to look at. And Ole Miss, as we know, they're expecting probably somewhere between 8 and 12 transfers over the course of the next couple of months. We'll see exactly how that goes. Now, Malik Dia, if he gets added to with Michael Ajayi, and you start seeing them build that positionless basketball, because Dia is a 6'9" power forward who can also go out and shoot the three. Now, he also rebounds the ball pretty well, so he's not exactly the stretch four type player that like Jamin Brakefield is, even though Brakefield can shoot the three as well. So we'll see exactly how that looks. And we're going to pay attention on Twitter and everybody to see which players are going to end up in Oxford. Like I said, the only player that is confirmed to be visiting at this point is Michael Ajayi from Pepperdine. But I'm sure there's others as well. I just haven't heard about it. So we'll see exactly how that goes. Lots of great stuff indeed. Pretty fired up. Thanks again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listening. Everydayers, we have Bill Flowers joining our normal beat reporters this week to talk about spring football. But for your second listen, check out Locked On, and they've launched their first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every single league. Find Locked On Sports Today, now available in the free Fire TV channels app. For those of you on YouTube, we will send you there right now. Howdy toddy, everyone.